Welcome back to me reading Transported, a Wings of Fire story. It's fanfiction. This time it's going to be over chapter 14. As usual, if this is your first time watching this little series, I recommend you to watch the previous chapters or read them yourself. Now let's begin. This chapter's name is Secrets and a Lost Friend. Daniel slowly raised his head to look at his friends. Hey, dude, you alright? Keebley asked. He looked a lot better from the last time Daniel had seen him. He wasn't shivering anymore and seemed more confident. I guess he's back to normal, Daniel thought, happily and relieved. He looked around at his surroundings. It appeared to him that he was back inside the cave. Dark, rocky walls greeted wherever he looked, except for the right, which was the exit to the desert. The rest of the Jade Winglet stared at him with worried faces. Moon was staring back a bit, watching from a distance, as was Pearl, for obvious reasons. Winter was towards the left side of the cavern. He was staring at a wall, trying to make the others believe he wasn't looking at he wasn't looking, but Daniel spotted him taking occasional glances at him. Turtle was nowhere to be seen. However, he turned his attention to Kinkajaw and Keebley, who were staring intently as they tried to talk to him. Hello? Hurricane, you there? Kikijawa asked. Daniel, however, ignored them, not offering to even speak. This was for two reasons. One, he was still trying to gain his bearings at what just happened to him. Two, he had more important matters to think of, like those cryptic whispers and, my sister, Daniel thought, remembering what he had seen. He didn't know if it was real, but soon his eyes shot open as he got up quickly. Hey, are you okay? Keebley said, a little startled at his sudden movements. Winter had also turned to stare at him, intrigued by what was happening. Daniel didn't say anything. He was too busy putting puzzle pieces together in the jigsaw board of his mind. The book. Daniel pictured the scene. He took his eyes away from his sister for a split second, and then she was gone. Nothing but a glowing book was left on the ground. It made no sense. How would she disappear? Unless she didn't. Unless she was taken somewhere else, like I was. And if that's the case, it means my sister's also in Pyrea. Daniel was snapped out of his daze. He had bolted for the cave entrance. His mind was racing too fast to make rational choices. Whoa, slow down! Kikajo yelled. You're not fit to fly yet! Daniel ignored her. He flapped his wings and left off into the sky, taking a sly glance at his friends as he whipped past. He managed to spot the expression on Moon's face as he left. Her eyes were wide open, but not in a state of shock. It was more like a state of realization, like she had just cracked the code to something. Daniel didn't give it a thought. He needed to find his sister. Don't worry, sir. Don't worry, Charlotte. I'll find you. 15 minutes later. The cave disappeared into the distance as he kept flying. Nothing but sandy dunes were in sight. The sun was coming up, and Daniel was coming up again. Daniel noticed that a warm, bright light could be seen in front of him. That was a good sign. He was going the right way. Soon, his stomach began to grumble. He just realized how hungry he was. Damn, when was the last time I've ate? Daniel thought. He didn't eat at Jade Mountain, or when he was traveling with the Jade Winglet. And he didn't eat at Baron's house either, meaning that he hadn't eaten at all ever since he entered Pyrea. How am I not dead yet? Daniel pondered. No human would ever last this long without food. But I'm not a human. Not anymore, at least. Either way, he was starving, and he needed to find food soon. Luckily for him, he spotted the ocean not too far in the distance. I could probably fish for some food there, Daniel thought optimistically. He kept flying for a bit longer. However, soon the reality of the situation started to hit him. He didn't have a plan or any idea on how to find his sister. And maybe bolting out of the cave away from the only dragons who could help him may have been a bad idea. It's too late to go back, though, Daniel thought. I'm on my own for now on. It's better off this way anyways. At least they won't have to deal with the fact that live in a made-up world. Daniel reached for his pouch to pull out Baron's map, only to feel nothing there. Wait, Daniel panicked as he fumbled around his scales. His bag wasn't on him. Did I drop it somewhere? No, now that I think about it, I don't think I have it on me when I left. So it's back at the cave, Daniel thought. Damn it! Daniel screamed. His voice echoed into the distance. He doubted anyone heard him, though. Well, I should at least get something to eat before thinking about my next move, Daniel said to himself. He didn't even notice that he had already made it to the beach. Daniel swooped down to the sand as he stared out towards the ocean. It sparkled with sunlight as the sun rose behind it. Immediately, the picture of his parents came to mind, and thus his sister, the rest of his family. He couldn't hold back the tears. His head bent down. He cried. My parents are dead, and my sister, I might never see her again. However, his sobbing was interrupted when his stomach grumbled again. Oh, just shut up already! I was having a moment! Daniel screamed at his body, which retorted with another grumble from his stomach. Daniel sighed and walked out to the ocean, in hopes of finding some fish. The water was quite warm, surprisingly, and wasn't freezing like Daniel expected it to be. Well, I am right next to a scorching desert, so it makes sense, honestly. Daniel searched the shallow ocean for any possible prey. Usually, there wouldn't be any on Earth, since people at the beach would normally scare all the fish away. It took a few minutes of wandering, but eventually Daniel spotted his target, a medium-sized fish, maybe around the size of his talon in length. Perfect dinner for tonight. Daniel grinned with hunger. He needed to be quiet, though. The fish didn't expect anything at the moment, but Daniel would lose it for sure if he rushed. Slowly, he made his way towards the fish, making sure to drag his talon across the floor instead of stepping, as that would alert the fish and possibly lose him his meal. The fish was now within his reach. He just had to be fast. Daniel raised his talons and prepared to stab the fish through the eyes. According to YouTube's harpoon hunting videos, that's where you want to aim for. Okay. The fish was unsuspecting and angled itself in the perfect position for Daniel's claw to pass right through it. However, right when he was about to catch the fish, a seagull came, the rats of the sky, out of nowhere, and scooped up the fish for itself before flying away. It dropped the fish midway through, as it was too heavy for it to carry. But that didn't matter to Daniel, as the seagull had just earned itself a death wish. Oh, no you don't, Daniel yelled as he shot multiple insulting remarks at the plump white bird, who was flying away, aka the rats of the fucking sky. Daniel caught up to it and grabbed it by its throat. The seagull gave a surprised squawk as it tried to escape Daniel's grasp. Daniel drove the bird's head into the sand, which killed it on impact. Cool. That's what happens when you try to steal someone else's food. You become the food, Daniel spat at the lifeless bird before he set it ablaze. Well, I should probably set up camp for the night, Daniel thought. He left the sizzling bird on the ground as he looked for a good place to set up. He spotted an area near the beach/desert border. There was like a miniature cliff, about 4 to 3 meters in height, before the beach began. It would work well as a base for his little hut. I could probably dig a makeshift cave for myself, and the other dragons won't spot it from above. Perfect, Daniel beamed. Well, better get to work. Back with the Jade Winglet. So you're telling me that he just left? Turtle said, unconvinced. Yep. However, he did end up leaving his pouch behind with him. Although Winter isn't letting anyone touch it, Turtle said, gesturing to the Icewing, who was sitting in the corner, covering the pouch in front of him. Okay. Hey, he wouldn't want us to go through his stuff, Winter snapped. Pearl simply rolled her eyes at his remarks. Okay. So, do we at least know why he left? Turtle asked. Nope, King Kajal said. Me and Kink were taking care of him after you and Pearl brought him back here, brutally beaten up, Keebly said before adding, as well as her. gesturing to the strange dragon who had been found next to Daniel. Turtle looked at the dragon they had brought back along with Hurricane. She appeared to be a Sandwing Icewing hybrid. They didn't know her name or anything about her much. She was quietly chilling out in the corner, or in a corner. Since she couldn't move much and definitely couldn't fly, Pearl had placed a small ring of flaming rocks around her to 1. Keep her warm, so she would heal up faster, 2. To keep her from leaving, so they could question her about what happened when she eventually decided to speak. Turtle remembered what happened. Pearl and he were out looking for Hurricane after what looked like some sort of sand twister was seen in the distance, towards where he was. When they flew over, they found the aftermath of what happened. Blue and red blood was painted all over the area, and 2 bloody dragons lay in the center. He had healed Hurricane with his enchanted healing stone. However, he decided to simply wait with the other dragon, as he didn't know how dangerous she was. They were both still badly injured internally, so they decided to take them both back, despite the others' protests. At first, she looked like an Icewing, until it was revealed that she was just soaked in blue blood, and that she was actually a hybrid. They didn't know much about her, other than the fact that she was in a fight with Hurricane. What gave this away was the mix of blue and red blood on each other's scales and claws, as well as the obvious claw cuts and slashes. "Hey, Turtle, don't daze off on me," Keebly snapped, which ended up bringing him back to the present. "Right. Sorry," Turtle said before he turned to look at Moon. She was sitting quietly in a corner, avoiding any conversation on the topic. "You've been awfully quiet, Moon. Something wrong?" Keebly asked as he walked up to Moon. Turtle noticed Winter in the back, staring at the scene. He had a mix of sadness and anger on his face, which could only be described as jealousy. "How odd," Turtle whispered to himself. He was, however, interrupted by Moon before he could go talk with them. "Hey, guys," Moon said, a little worried. "Yeah, what's up?" Pearl asked as Kikajaw, Turtle, and Winter switched their attention to her. Moon started before pausing. "I can't do this," she said as she curled up in the ball, sobbing quietly. Hey, it's all right, Moon," Keebly said, trying to comfort her. "Yeah, you can tell us," Kikajaw exclaimed happily. No, you'll all hate me if I do," Moon said. "Why would we hate you?" Keebly asked concerningly. "Because you will. You just will. If I tell you," Moon said. Her voice so soft it was barely audible. "It's your secret, isn't it?" Turtle said with the rest of the Jade Winglet turned to look at him. Moon nodded. "Remember what Hurricane said? A friend group without secrets is a friend group more likely to stay together," Keebly finished. "Exactly. So I wanted to tell my secret now, but I don't know if I can." Moon sobbed. A small tear fell from her eye. "Well, in that case, it would probably be a good idea," Keebly said. "All right, guys, huddle up. It's time we shared our secrets." Winter immediately piped up. I'm not doing that," he yelled back at Keebly. "Remember, you agreed to it at Jade Mountain, with all of us." But, Winter started. "No buts," Keebly interrupted. "Get your icy butt over here." Winter slightly blushed at Keebly's remark, before eventually heading over and taking a seat in the circle. "All right, now that we're all here, I'll be the one to start us off." Everyone looked at him intently. "Okay. Wow. This is a lot harder than I thought." "Exactly. So how about we all just let—" Winter tried to talk Keebly out of it. "Nuh-uh," Keebly said, putting a talon over Winter's snout. Winter's face immediately cooled down as a deep blue blush was present on his face. Luckily, no one could see it, due to Keebly covering it. "We're doing this, all right?" Keebly said sternly. "So, as I was saying," Keebly started, "if I'm being honest, I don't have too many secrets, but I'll spill them. My family was extremely abusive towards me, to the point where I would eventually have anxiety. I hate cars so much. Have anxiety over being ordinary, so I wanted everyone to like me. The rest of the Jade Winglet was speechless. Is that true, Keebly? Kikijao asked. Her scales turned a blue-gray color. Yeah, it's true, Keebly admitted. I'm so sorry, Moon said. It's fine. It's the past anyway, Keebly added. That's it, I'm pretty sure. He splashed the group one of his bright smiles, which made Winter's heart rate pick up a bit. Well, I guess I'll go next, Pearl interjected. I'm just going to state it how it is. I was never given any true love or friends when growing up, so I don't know what friends are supposed to be like, and I still don't. I don't know what affection is. I actually liked killing back in the arena, because it was the only thing I could do right. I'm sorry that you never experienced true affection before, Turtle stated. Same here, King Kikijao piped up. Thanks, guys. A small tear left Pearl's eye, but it evaporated instantly. I'm sorry your childhood wasn't great, Winter said. This surprised Pearl, since she thought Winter hated her. So for the first time in a while, it really put a smile on her face. My turn, I guess, Kikijao spoke. I was taken and experimented on by night wings. For a while. Moon flinched at Kikijao's words. It was clear she regretted what her tribe did to her clawmate. Oh, that's all squished together. Oh, and I may or may not have a question on Turtle, Kikijao said quickly, while turning a bright pink. Turtle stood there, a red blush creeping its way across his snout. Turtle stuttered. Just go and kiss her already, Pearl explained as Keebly pushed Turtle towards Kikijao. Whoa, hey! Turtle said as he toppled over and into Kikijao. Turtle landed on top of her, snouts almost touching. Oh, hey, Kikijao. Turtle started. However, Kikijao made the first move and kissed him right on the snout. When they broke apart, Turtle just stared, baffled, while Kikijao and the others laughed at his almost crimson face. Well, that was something, Winter remarked. You said it, Keebly laughed, nudging Winter's wing with his own. This caused Winter's already very light blush to deepen quickly. However, he wasn't as lucky as last time, since Kikijao saw this and immediately called it out. Ooh, looks like Winter's got a crush, Kikijao mocked. Shut up, Winter retorted as he looked away from his friends in an attempt to hide his almost navy blush from them, and especially his crush right next to him. Oh, come on, Winter. Tell us, who's the lucky girl? Keebly said in a pleading voice. It's nobody! Winter turned to his friends, still trying to hide his blush. 3 moons. Whoever it is, he's fully in love with them, Pearl laughed. Don't worry, guys. You'll have to tell us when it's his turn to speak, King Jocelyn. Well, I guess I'll go then, Turtle said, clearing his voice. Well, I'm unanimous, Turtle said, shrugging nonchalantly. This instantly caught everyone's attention, especially Keebly's. Wait, really? Keebly beamed. Turtle nodded in response. Winter was giving him a skeptical look. What are some of the things you've enchanted? He asked, not fully convinced by Turtle's words. I see you're not convinced, Turtle said. Can't exactly blame us, Moon blurted. I mean, would we be able to see you cast an enchantment? Turtle didn't want to cast a spell, in fear of losing his soul. But maybe a small one wouldn't be too bad. He took off his Skyfire armband. I enchant this armband to always point to Hurricane's current location. The bracelet suddenly fell to the ground and began to shake violently, eventually coming to a stop and locking in place in the air. Does that prove it? Turtle asked hopefully, as he looked from the still floating bracelet to his shocked friends. That definitely proves it, Winter said. Wow, you're actually an animus? That's amazing! Could you be able to enchant me something to make people like me? Or how about my something to make me fly? Or how about my something to make me fly faster? We love typos here. They make us laugh. Or how about my something to make me fly faster than Hurricane? That would be so cool. Keebly was constantly sending a barrage of requests at Turtle, who was clearly getting uncomfortable. Keebly, Moon tried to say. Not now, Moon. I'm in the middle of something, Keeley interrupted. Moon quieted down after what he said. Pearl and Winter were getting a bit mad, while Kikajal just looked at Turtle with an I'm sorry look. Keebly, you should stop. Kikajal tried. However, Keebly either ignored her or didn't notice, as he was continuing with his possible request for enchantments. This angered Winter. He stormed up behind them, grabbed his shoulder, and pulled him away from Turtle. Or how about whoa? Keebly said. As he was pulled away from Turtle, Winter stepped in front of him. What was that for? Keebly yelled, a little annoyed that his friend would just push him over for no reason. You know exactly what that was for, Winter snarled. No, I don't. Please elaborate, Keebly said, a little angry now, but he kept his cool. You're oblivious, aren't you? Pearl chimed in from the sides. Now Keebly was confused. Had he done something wrong? What do you mean? What she means is that Turtle here just told you his biggest secret, which is already hard to do, and the first thing you do is barrage him with enchanting requests for your own gain. Like, what's wrong with you? Winter bellowed. Do you not care about his soul? Keebly looked around at his friends, who were all sharing the same he's right look, except for Turtle, who was avoiding eye contact with him. He soon realized that they were all right. He had been so obsessed with possibly getting an animus touch object for himself that he had completely forgotten what it does to dragons. Look, Winter, I'm sorry. Keebly tried to apologize. Save it, Winter spat. Apologize to Turtle, not to me. Think before you speak. He was angry with Keebly at how selfish he could be when it came to animus magic. Although a small part of his heart couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Seeing Keebly so upset made Winter want to support him, tell him it was all right. Soon he felt his cheeks cool down a bit as he realized the thought of him with Keebly had brought his blush back. He sat back down before anyone could notice it again. Let's just get this stuff over and done with, Winter said to everyone as he walked off back to his spot. Agreed, Kikajal and Pearl said. Turtle shot Keebly a hurt glance before sitting down next to Kikajal. Keebly didn't say anything and returned to his spot next to Winter. Regret marked across his face. Well, who's next? Kikajal asked. Winter and Moon, Turtle answered. Winter and Moon's hearts picked up, knowing that it was their turn soon. I'll go, Moon blurted. She took a deep breath and prayed to the moons above that she wouldn't regret this. I'm a mind reader. She dipped her head down in case anyone yelled at her. But nobody did, until someone yelled her name. Moon! Moon immediately covered her ears from the sudden shout. She eventually looked up at everyone else, who was staring at her like she was just joking around, except for Winter, who had a shocked face on. So it's true, Winter said. Moon nodded. Winter was fueled with rage for a bit. He was about to lash out when he remembered what happened with Keebly. He just barely managed to contain himself, although he wasn't happy in the slightest. Why didn't you tell us? Winter asked as casually as he could, though there was plenty of rage behind his calm words. I'm sorry. I didn't think you would trust me after I did, Moon sobbed. Well, how can we? If you've been reading our minds, you're like Hurricane. You probably already know all our secrets, Winter yelled. The others looked at Moon, now understanding that she was serious. Winter stared angrily, his mind running faster than Keebly's for a short matter of time. Although he was sure Moon was reading his every thought. I know you hate me, but I need you to understand, Moon tried to reason. Well, I don't. Your tribe said the powers were all lies. What were they lying about that too? Winter bellowed, unable to contain his rage. Moon started to cry as Keebly got up and attempted to calm Winter down. He had to return the favor for what he did for him. Winter, Keebly said. What? Winter yelled. Keebly put both of his front talons on his shoulders and stared into his eyes. Calm down. Winter's rage died down as he stared back at Keebly. Their snouts were almost touching. It was too much for Winter to handle. His heart started to beat faster, and if he didn't calm his feelings down, he didn't know what would happen. Luckily for him, Turtle came and broke them apart before Winter got too ahead of himself. I think you should apologize, Winter, Turtle said in a soft voice. However, he was also hoping that Keebly would pick this up and apologize to him. Right, Winter sighed. He walked towards Moon, who was being comforted by Kikajaw. Hey, Moon, Winter said as he settled down next to her. Moon looked up, but avoided eye contact. I'm sorry for lashing out like that, Winter apologized. Moon looked at him and studied his face and mind. Thanks, she finally said before turning her attention back to Kinkajaw. Winter turned around to see Keebly giving Turtle his apology, which he accepted. It seemed like Keebly was back to his normal cheerful self, especially when he called out the rest of the group. All right, it's time for Mr. Icy Face to spill his secrets. Everyone giggled a bit at his remark. I hope you would have forgotten, Winter said. Not a chance, love, Keebly joked in hopes of embarrassing him. No, I can't. I can't worry you guys with my issues, Winter said. Oh, come on, Winter. It can't be any worse than anyone else's secrets, Kikajaw begged. Yeah, like you're saying it's worse than my mind reading or Turtle's animus powers? Moon said questionably. Yes, well, no, but still, I can't tell you. Please, Pearl mocked. How bad can it be? You're from a royal family, for Moon's sake. If anything, your problems are probably tiny compared to ours. And how would you know that? Winter growled. Oh, come on, Winter. You're still going to be like that after all of this? Keebly bellowed. Fine, then, Winter yelled. I was never loved by my parents. They called me a disgrace. I was mentally and emotionally abused daily. I still am. They loved my perfect brother and wanted me dead. He paused. I'm not even considered a son to them. Winter was crying, and it only got worse ever since they found out who I loved. Happy! He curled up on the ground into a little icy ball of sadness. Winter couldn't see anything, but he was sure that everyone else saw him as a weakling now, since they weren't saying anything. In reality, everyone was completely shocked at what just happened. They just stood there. They always thought Winter was treated well, since he was royalty. They never expected this. I'm so sorry, Winter, Turtle called out to him. Don't be. I don't need anyone's pity, Winter said coldly, tears still running down his cheek as he got up. He was just passing by Keebly when he suddenly asked, Who do you love, Winter? Huh? Who do you love? You said that the abuse only got worse ever since. Maybe if you told us, we could help you, Moon said hopefully. That's something you can't help with, Winter replied. A deep blue blush came over his snout. He didn't try to hide it. Maybe we can. Get them to talk to you, Keebly said. However, he was interrupted by Winter when he passionately kissed him on the snout in front of everyone. And that is the end of the chapter. Except for, as usual, the author's note at the very bottom. Hello, beautiful people. I am back with another chapter. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see if I can get another chapter out soon. But until then, I'll see you in the next one. Ciao. So, Daniel ran away. And all the gaggle fuck of the group he's with all spilled their little secrets, except for Daniel. He's probably never going to steal his. He ain't going to spill his secret. It's way too important. So yeah. Oh yeah. Winter is gay for Keebly. I never read the book, but maybe they're like that in the book. I don't know. I'm just gonna. If the author gives me a relationship that he wants to, we roll with it. Because, well, I never read the book, so there's that. Anyway, see you next time.